Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're looking at the Tayal from Work Tuff Gear. I recently reviewed the Tayal, which is the bigger brother of this knife, probably, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and really liked that knife. So when I saw this smaller version, I thought I definitely want to check it out. Reach out to them, and they send it to me. So what we'll do here is talk about some of the details and some initial thoughts and impressions of the knife, and then we'll take it outside and test it out. This is right out of the box. I wanted to show it to you before it was used at all, and then I'll get out and test it off camera and then show you some work on camera as well. So your details: 5 inches for your blade, 5 inches for your handle, so obviously 10 inches from end to end. Your actual cutting edge is about 4.8 inches. The steel is SK85, which is a high carbon steel, so when you come back inside after you're using it, or if you're using it inside in the first place, just make sure you wipe it down and keep it oiled so it doesn't get any rust on it. Your Rockwell hardness is a 56 to 58. It does have a convex edge on it, and it is 0.15 inches thick. So it's definitely not a huge thick blade, but that's going to allow you to do a little bit more detail work with this knife. It does have a convex edge. I'm not sure if I said that already, but if I did, there it is again, convex edge. And it has the force patina on the blade, which is really cool. So you can get it without the force patina, but actually when I reached out to them, they said, hey, is it cool if we do this? I said, yeah, definitely. Just a really cool look. Let me pick this up and show it to you up close. So here's what it looks like. You can still see right there, WT for Work Tuff Gear. Here's the other side. Let me show you the liners now. So you can see the force patina on the back there and then the orange liners. I really like this handle. Very similar to the original Tayal. This one's actually, I think, even a little bit more comfortable because it's smoothed out. I'll show you the original here real quick as far as the handle. It does have a bit more texture there. This one's smoothed out really nicely. Fits in my hand nicely. I have large size hands, so that's what that looks like. Do have a lanyard slot on the end there. You're not going to be doing a whole lot of aggressive crushing with that because the G10 comes right down to the edge. So be careful if you're trying to do any smashing of acorn. Let's look at it end to end real quick. The sheath is Kydex with a ballistic nylon there. Here's what it looks like to slide in. Nice click. And there it is inside the sheath. Very functional. Got some options as far as, if you want to strap it to something. We do have a drain hole right there as well. And then I'll show you what it looks like on my belt when we get outside. So you can slide that through. This has Velcro and also a snap there for putting it on, but you can obviously just, if you want to take off your belt and just slide it through, you can do that as well. I do like this attachment here. Sometimes you have this kind of L-shaped attachment and people make it too wide, so this is nice and snug up against the Kydex that's actually holding the knife. Here's what they look like side by side: the Tayal up top and then the Tayal down below. Handle's a little bit bigger on the Tayal, but still quite comfortable. I like the handle a lot. But the Tayal is probably, it's one of the more comfortable handles I've used in a while. It is pretty neutral, so if you want a lot of texture and contouring, then you're going to want a different handle than this one. But I really have enjoyed holding this one. It feels really comfortable in hand. You can see here that there's jimping on the back of both knives, but definitely the Tayal is less aggressive, just smaller jimping overall. All right, there's a quick rundown on the knife and the details. Let's get outside and start using this thing. All right, we are outside now. It just snowed this morning, so a fresh snowfall all over the ground here. And we're going to show you the Tayal at work. And first thing I want to do is show you what it looks like on my hip now that I've got it in the sheath and on a belt. All right, so here's a look at the knife in the sheath on my belt. There's drawing it out. There's placing it back in. It's going to definitely move freely unless I use one of these grommet holes and tie a piece of cordage around my my thigh. But that movement is fine for me, and it's definitely quite secure on my belt. I have no concern about it falling off or anything. All right, let's just work this wood a little bit here. I think I mentioned earlier that it did come nice and sharp, which is great. Just taking some of the bark off first. I am wearing gloves today. It's very comfortable with gloves. It's comfortable without, but I'm wearing gloves just because it's so chilly outside. It's just one of those cold, gray New England days, actually. There's a quick look at some of the work it did, and this is definitely not a great stick for making feathers, but it still made some nice curls in general. It's a little better when it comes to some feathers and some curls there. Let's see if we can strike a fire steel with this. All right, everything's pretty damp here, but I've got my Exotech. I think this is the Nanorod XL. I think that's the name. Anyhow, I'm gonna see if I can get these some of these feathers started with the Tayal. Yeah, definitely, it'll strike it. And when the fire rod gets too thin, that's what it looks like. So I got to replace that, but you definitely saw it got sparks with the Tayal. All right, so I definitely did some of that detail work. Broke the fire steel, but what are you gonna do? So anyhow, we're gonna move on to a little bit more aggressive work. I've got my Christmas tree that I just put out here in the woods, so I'm gonna do some chopping of the limbs, see if I can remove some of those small limbs, and then we'll do some more aggressive work as well. So it definitely chopped, as you can see behind me. We've basically taken that top 80% of the branches off there. The challenge, interesting, just fell over. The challenge, honestly, is that since the blade is not that long, as you're swinging, especially with a tree that's got branches that are frozen, if you hit the branch below, it whacks your knuckles, which I did on this hand pretty painfully. But as far as the cutting capability, it's sliced through, and because of the curve, excuse me with the camera here, because of the curve in that in the knife, it really does slice well. It's absolutely not a chopper, it's not meant to be, but taking off a bunch of these limbs, if you were making a shelter or just cutting branches off things to make a fire, it's gonna do the job. Once again, as you can see here. We'll do a little batoning here. This one's got a bunch of knots in it, so we'll see how it does. I'll try to go across the knots just to give it a test. So that broke off there. Try again. And this is maple too. Really just got the tip barely sticking out there, so let me readjust this a little bit. Well, as I was readjusting, it broke. Still looks like it's in good shape. All right, so in initial testing, the Tayal's doing well. The sun is starting to go down, it's starting to get a little bit hazy as far as the camera. And yeah, but I'm gonna keep testing this thing and I'll get footage of that and then roll it in a little bit later so you can see what it looks like. But I can tell you, like I said before, that the handle's very comfortable. My hands are cold now. It's in the 30s probably right now. And I've just got these, what are these called? Ironclad gloves on. They're leather, so they're not giving me a ton of insulation. So my hands are pretty chilly now. And honestly, with gloves on, it'll still fit, but it does kind of, you can see my fingers there maybe a little bit, they're almost overlapping. Without gloves on, I'll show you real quick here, it fits perfectly. But again, large size hands, these are large gloves. Without the gloves, perfect. With gloves, a little bit, maybe a little bit too small between your finger guard there and then where it swoops up toward the end there. So if you have extra large size hands, I'd probably say go with the Tayal as opposed to this, just because the handle's a little bit bigger on that one. Yeah, I can tell you now that I've taken off my gloves, it feels locked in better. It wasn't bad with the gloves, but it's definitely much better, I would say, without the gloves, just based on the size of my hand and the control I've got now. So I'm gonna do a bit more work off camera, like I said, and then I'll roll in that footage, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the knife. All right, guys, we're back here wrapping up talking about the Work Tough Gear Tayal. So I've done some other work off camera. I've done some work where I recorded the footage. I'm gonna roll that in here. As you can see, I made some more feather sticks. I actually got a fire started. Quick note, that wasn't an issue with the Exotech fire steel. It was just that I've used that thing so much that it eventually wears through when you use it a ton. So definitely recommend their products. Big thumbs up to them. But just didn't want you to think that was any issue with their product. So yes, I got a fire started. I did some other chopping and carving and stuff. As you can see here, I have like a little notch I made. I actually made a little bit of a spear point before that I showed you, but it just snapped off because it was so thin. But one thing that's really interesting is because of that sweep at the top of the blade going back up, when you're working, you can actually get your thumb on that section where it starts to bend up and do those little like more detailed cuts. And because of the angle, it just kind of locks your thumb in better than if it was just a flat blade. So as far as some of those smaller bushcrafting tasks, like when I was working on this notch, I could go like this. Let me show you real quick, like this, and push in. Or even if I wanted to do real detail, I could get way up to the tip of the knife and push in, which is just easier to do because it sweeps up. You get a little bit more of a lock in when you're doing that. So yeah, I mean, it does all the work. So having done that work both on and off camera, here's what I'll say. Solid bushcraft knife, solid material. I've done quite a bit of work with it and the edge is still quite sharp. So they've done a good job with the heat treat and the steel. Now comparing this one to the Tayal, I would say the Tayal is much more of a survival knife if you're looking for something like that, or just a larger knife that's going to offer you more opportunities to effectively chop, just because the blade is longer, it's got more weight, handle's a little bit bigger. You can choke all the way back and put your 2 fingers or 1 finger on that little hook. You put a lanyard on and chop, but just because of the weight and the size of the blade, it's not going to chop as effectively as something that's got a longer blade. I don't think that's a knock against this knife though. I just think that it's not designed for that. The main thing, just to give you a heads up about, is, let me show you right there. You can see how much space I have left when I've got my finger locked in, my first finger up against the finger guard, and then my hands just kind of falling where they want to. When I put gloves on, it does crunch my hands a little bit. I certainly wouldn't want to use this if I had large size hands and really big gloves on. I just don't think you'd be able to get a good grip on it, which is probably true of most knives, because eventually your gloves get so big that you can't hold a knife effectively, especially like big winter gloves, unless it's a huge handle. Anyhow, Tayal, survival knife, more slashing and chopping ability. This one, definitely more detail work. I like that forced patina. You can see I've definitely used the fire steel quite a bit on it. The thing that impressed me the most was that it offers a diversity of function, and for around $100, the steel that they used, I mean, it's just really, it's very sharp still. It's not just like, oh, it's pretty decent. It's like, I mean, it's sharp. I don't need to touch this thing up at all, despite having used it quite a bit already. So yeah, I mean, for $100 to get a cool knife, cool design, you can get that forced patina, you can get it without, a couple different options for your blade, for your handle color. I've got links down in the description section, so you can head over to Amazon, which is where they sell from, and you could pick this up if you want to do that. And I like it. You're definitely going to see it in my rotation. I'm trying to think what I currently have as like my Bushcraft kit knife. I think I've got a Tops Brachimo in my bigger kit, but like in my smaller bag, I might put this in there, just because I really like the way it's worked. I don't know if you can see the snow is starting to fall here. So anyhow, yeah, definitely thumbs up for the Work Tough Gear Tayal, as well as the I.C.E as well. Let's hear your thoughts. If you've used this, or what you even just think about this video having seen it in use. Let's get that discussion started in the comment section below. Alright guys, thanks as always for checking out the videos. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids here on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Alright guys, thanks as always for checking out the videos. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.